Greetings and salutations, friend. We are in week 5 of the Manifest Design Experience. You are here developing your brand, whether that's your personal brand, whether that's your business brand, a product, a service, or what I'm doing, an idea brand, something that I am creating from scratch and sharing with the world for the point of, I don't know, getting it out there and doing something new. You can pretty much be developing any kind of brand, and that's really that's the best aspect of this process is when you think of something and you start trying to imagine it and bring it into the world. You really need a process to bring it into the world and to influence other people, to get them involved in it, to make them feel good about any of your ideas, right? And that's what you're here for. You are learning how to craft your brand, how to choose the right words for it, and eventually we'll get to choosing the right pictures for it to really create the feeling that you're going after in whatever it is you're building. So we have 3 exercises this week. I slowed down just a little bit because people, this entire process, this group, all the guides, these are self-driven. Like, you don't have to wait for me. You can just dive in, take it as slow or as fast as you want. You can keep up with me. You can't. I decided to have a nice, easy week right now with only 3 exercises. These exercises are the My Customer Profile, which builds off of a previous exercise that we did. A story of risks and struggles, which also sort of builds off of the hero's journey that we've talked about once before. A day in the life of, which, I know, it's just sort of a fun exercise for me, really getting into the mindset of somebody and walking through their day. Serious empathy building skills there, emotional intelligence, really putting your needs and yourself on the side so that you can see through the eyes of your customer, your audience, whoever that is. That's one of my favorite exercises, in case you can't tell. So we're going to go over those 3 exercises, and then we're going to go over the next step. And the next step is not really a 4th exercise, but it's something that I am begging you to do. I'm begging you to take time to do. But I'll go ahead and go over that at the end of this entire live today, this entire video today. We are probably going to go about an hour. I'm hoping to cut it a little bit short because I'm talking really quickly. I hope you don't take any offense by that. I'm talking really quickly. I want to cover a lot of material and share the thinking process behind these questions, these answers, these exercises, so you can use it in the most powerful way for yourself, for whatever your project is moving forward. And of course, as always, if this is too slow, if it's too nebulous, if it's just kind of out there, you're not getting it, ask questions in the group. If you want to work one-on-one with me or with me and your team, whatever it is, to build an idea, a concept for yourself, of course you can apply for that. There's an application on my website, thinktankcreative.net, and we've just spent about 30 minutes talking about you and what you want to do and what you want to build to figure out if working together is right, to move you faster, farther together, right? That's what it's really all about. So, first order of business, pull out your brand book. If you have downloaded and printed out the exercises for this week, there's 3 exercises. They look like this one, My Customer Profile, a story of risks and struggles, and there it is, A Day in the Life of. And this is my brand book. You guys are going to hear me say this over and over again. You're going to hear me repeat a lot of things from week to week, just in case somebody's jumping in or kind of experiencing some of this new. This is my brand book. This is where I am printing out all of these exercises for myself, building the brand that I am working on. The brand that I am working on is an idea brand. It is a sort of a health retreat, an idea where people can go and get away from the city, get away from life, and receive acupuncture and acupuncture, tai chi, qigong, massage, really start to feel better, meditation lessons. It's a mind and body sort of retreat that is centered around a large building, a castle, where people who go there stay in these little micro homes across the property where, it really feels like they're staying there by themselves, but they can go and have community in the castle. And my target audience for this particular exercise, for what I'm working on with you, is the visionary teacher or leader or guru or sage, however you really want to describe it, the person who would bring their group to this property to go ahead and teach them, educate them, raise their energy, raise their frequency, help them find peace and confidence. There's a lot of that kind of work going on all over the world right now, and I think it's fantastic work. And this whole process, this whole project that I'm working on is really about appealing to them. I'm trying to figure out how to talk to them, how to work with them in a way that I feel like the brand conveys across what I want to convey. So you're working on your brand, I'm working on my brand. I hope that all of the examples play across. And the point of the brand book, the point of printing this out, the point of keeping this, I wrote it on the very first page, and I share this pretty much every time, right there. This is how we record. No, this is a record of how we make brand decisions, and that's big. Actually, after spending 20 years in the corporate world, I learned that they don't really have a good process for making brand decisions. They just sort of, VPs just jump in and say, well, this is the right route to take, and CEOs say, well, I want the brand to perform well, but they don't really understand well. And sometimes even defining a target market, defining a customer, defining an audience is really difficult for those corporate types. And so this is a way to define all of this decisions, to wrap the entire team together, to get alignment. Really, we're already getting alignment behind what the brand should be. That was last week and the week before, and now we're getting alignment about the customer and what they need to be able to get through all this stuff, right? There's a lot to think about, a lot to put in alignment. I want to change to a different word, but that's really what it is. It's feeling in alignment with all these things, because when you align, it's like everybody in a boat rowing. When everybody's rowing the same direction, you go faster, you go farther, you just succeed, you win the race because you get there. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump in. I'm going to pull up an exercise from a couple weeks ago. You might remember this one. It's the Say, Think, Get, Act. Don't read it backwards. Say, think, act, and feel exercise. And this is where I took my visionary intuitive teacher with groups of peace seekers. That's what I kind of call them, peace seekers. Is, just people trying to find peace of mind, understand themselves, maybe move away from some anxiety, move into a better place with themselves. And they're going with this teacher because it feels like it's right. It feels like it's helping them become more themselves and understand or release some of that tension and anxiety inside. So this teacher, which is the one I'm thinking about, it's the one that I'm trying to talk to and appeal to them. They're trying to find a place that will present to them where they can pull off this whole retreat thing. They're feeling a little impatient, a little stressed. They have trust, they have belief, they have faith that it's going to work out for them. But they're just it's stressful, right? It's stressful, but we don't know a lot about this person. And so that's what this exercise this week, it's called My Customer Profile. That's what this is about this week. Hold that up. That's what this exercise is about this week, and we are just going to go ahead and dive in because I went ahead. Magic. I started this, and you and I are going to do it together. Fill out a little bit more of the thought process so that you guys can see kind of what I ask myself and how I go through this. And here's the point, actually, right now, because I know some people are saying, well, what is your research on this? What is your, how much do you know about this? How much are you jumping into this? And this is where I'm actually going to tell you, if you have an idea of your audience, go with that idea. If you have research, use that research and wrap this around it. Like a Christmas tree and tinsel, just kind of wrap it around it. I don't really have research on this. I'm basing my potential customer, my audience, somebody who might stumble upon this idea, this business, and either want to invest or want to participate as a property that they would go to. I am basing this on the idea of my sort of gurus like Simon Sinek or Seth Godin, or even Dr. Joe Dispenza, or Dr. Dawson Church, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton. So my idea is around these kind of guys who are in alignment with the way that I think and I perceive the world and I perceive reality. And so I'm sort of imagining their life. This is not any one of them. This is me using my imagination to flesh out what they might be like. Now, this is my imagination. I implore you to use your imagination. It's okay at this stage of the game to use your imagination to think of one person. And it's like just bringing all the group of people that you know and all the data that you might have together to imagine one person and really flesh out all the stuff about them, right? It's really like that. So what am I like is where I'm starting. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead with a 48-year-old male. I don't know If that's good or bad, there is no real good or bad, right? We are just going with what we're going with. I'm saying he's married with one child, a girl who's 9 years old, because that feels about right to me for some reason. His wife is 39 years old, so a little bit younger than him. She probably works too. His income last year was about 43,000. This is from his own business. I'm saying he has a master's degree in something like social science or something like working with people one-on-one and helping others. There's some psychology involved in what he knows. There's some business involved in what he knows. That's just sort of his life. He has some coaching experience in terms of like life coaching or goal coaching. So he understands placing priorities and goals and building things out. And again, sorry, right in the circle here, I just copied over from that same that last sheet. So the archetype, visionary, intuitive teacher with groups of people, they're not using us, you, me. They're not using this product yet. Okay, so back over here, he's really into the idea of human design, and human design is really life design, based around psychology, based on the way that the brain works, based on the way that we perceive priorities and establish our thought processes. There's a whole branch of coaching and teaching and healing that's quantum human design. It's a pretty cool field. I think this guy would probably be at least a little bit into it because it seems like the sort of thing that they are doing. He is a business owner with 3 employees, and last year his business brought in about 480K. Now, I'm sort of imagining that's a one-on-one thing or lectures or other things going on, but he's got 3 employees, so it's fairly stable enough. What do I enjoy? Ooh, okay, so what do I enjoy? So this is, let's see, first thing we're going to look at is hobbies. So what might this person enjoy? This person probably enjoys reading, because I see somebody like this and they're always, in my head at least, they always have a book in their hands. They always have something they're learning about, something taking the next step and always improving themselves, right? That's somebody like this is always learning and taking the next step in their lives themselves. What else? Probably working out. I imagine that this guy would like cooking. Admittedly, because I like cooking, and I think that all of these things kind of go together when you learn about this stuff, cooking and understanding the food that goes into your body and the nutrition, all that stuff. To me, it goes with it. What else? See, I'm looking down at my worksheet right now, so you know, if you do this on the worksheet, it's a lot easier. Trying to do it up here, a little bit harder. Hobbies, foods. What foods does he like? You know what? He likes Mexican food. He likes Mediterranean food. Mediterranean food. Okay. I may have misspelled that, but I apologize. News. Where does he go for news? He probably goes to CNN for news. What do you think? Where would somebody like this go for news? Maybe Google, just Google. Oh, I know. This is probably an NPR listener. Good bet. Entertainment? Disney Plus. I've watched a lot of the Loki series lately, and Disney Plus seems like something that this person with a 9-year-old girl seems like they would end up kind of watching that kind of content. Which means, you know, superheroes. I don't know that that's big right here, but maybe if he's 48, maybe he went through some of the comic book phase when he was younger. Maybe he had action figures. Maybe there's some of that ties into this whole thing for him. Let's see. Gurus. So he definitely enjoys the ones I've named. Dispenza, Lipton, Church. What else? Brands that he would like. This person is fairly well dressed, comfortable, but in nice clothes. I would actually say that perhaps like Lululemon, because they're comfortable. I don't know about some of the brands, but probably shops at Macy's. You know, not super super fancy, like elite, but like normal kind of stores. Just he looks nice in the stuff. That seems about right. We'll go ahead and stop there for now. I can go on and on with any of these details, and really, the more that you can think of that fit your audience, that fit your exact person, write them down. Because the more that you write them down, it gives you more information for the next step. And I'm just sort of I'm running out of space, and I'm doing this live here, so I'm just trying not to take up too much time with it. But honestly, this should take um, probably about a half hour to an hour to fill out if you're really doing it in detailed. And this is a great thing if you've got 2 or 3 people and you are imagining together. Each of you has a slightly different perspective. You know, different brands, different types of reading, different types of books. And group stuff. This process works good by yourself. This process works really good with 2 people like you and me. This process works fantastic with a group, with a good facilitator leading you through it. What else do we have? Blogs and websites. Yeah, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do it. LinkedIn and Facebook for video lives. So it's not really that he enjoys those platforms, but those are the platforms he's on and experiences and knows because he goes on and does talks to his audience and builds his community that way. And his group that way, so he's familiar with really those 2 platforms, and that's good to know because that gives us a basis of understanding with what he's familiar with, the types of buttons and activities that he's used to doing online. So what do I think about? And I'm looking down at my cheat sheet here, and it says his opinions and attitudes. What does he think about? Oh, uh, he thinks about his family. He thinks about money. Like, this is not too different from any of us, right? Everybody at all stages of life think about certain things. He thinks about his health, and the health of his family. He thinks about paying his employees. He thinks about growing his business more. That's kind of key right there, growing the business more, right? Like, he's got 3 employees. He really kind of has to focus on next stages of growth and next platforms for growth and next um, leaps that he can take to really create more systemized, process driven, like everybody doing their part, and he can maybe step back and just let the machine of the business run, right? What else? Beliefs. Okay, so he believes in law of attraction. He believes in the resonance of abundance. And he believes in it's cheesy, but I'm gonna write it because it feels right to me. He believes in the power of love. What else? Love, right? It's universal energy, high frequency, goes with attraction, goes with abundance. Like, you start manifesting those things, you are on that wavelength. When you're on that wavelength, you believe in the power of love. um, what else? Hates. What does he hate? What does he hate? He hates bigotry. He hates opinionated, not people. People. How about opinionated perspectives? What else do we have? Quirks and distinguishing characteristics. Quirks and distinguishing characteristics. Um, so that's just a fun one. Like, if it's relevant, I put it in here because if it's relevant to your brand, then it's something you need to pay attention to because it's something that can really key in uniqueness in your audience, and it's really important for that direction. For this guy, um, because I know this one well, he wears glasses. And while that might not seem like a quirk or um, characteristic, it really is, because wearing glasses changes the way that you perceive the world around you. I've worn glasses since the 5th grade, and it really, and I've worn contacts, and glasses I prefer, and it changes the way that you perceive and interact with others and the world around you. So, interesting. Boy, it's like 95 degrees here in Seattle. I'm just like, woo, sweating. Okay, the last one. What do I value? What do I value? So he values, let's see, his responsibilities at work. So that's, he values being a good leader. Not just a boss, but a leader. And there is a huge difference in that. He values communication. He values time, if you can save time. He values efficiency. So this is a lot of work type thought things, but if you can get things done quickly and you can communicate that you did it quickly and efficiently, then he feels like you would be a good person to either do business with, or as an employee, he probably feels like you're a good employee if you can do your job quickly, efficiently, and communicate how and why you did that. That's fantastic. What else here? Tasks at home. So he also has to be uh, he feels like he has to be, or he believes, how's that? Feelings and beliefs get tied in really closely together. First, we have a belief, and then we create a feeling around that, because whatever choice we made created the belief based on the outcome. So we have a feeling around that, and the feeling plus the choice and the circumstances, those are the two things you need to actually create a memory. The feeling and the instance that goes with it, the visual senses. That's what creates memory in and of itself. So if you have a belief, you've created a memory based on an event. So he believes he has to be a good husband and father. And he wants to, right? When you make that choice, when you have that belief, you make the choice. You do the things necessary to become a good father and a good husband. What else? What do I value? Tasks at home. So, maybe he cooks dinner. And why am I putting this under value? Because if he values the time and effort that it takes to become a good father, a good husband, and he values cooking dinner, that's something that is his task, that is his errand, that is his home responsibility, then he's going to be sure to make time for it. And again, time is one of his values. So if this is a task he has to do, then he's going to create the time because he values the relationship, the responsibility, and the task. And that really just comes back to value. Cooks dinner, does laundry. I think everybody should help with laundry. What else? Craves, desires, wants, and needs. So we had some of this stuff on the other list. Craves, desires, wants, and needs. He craves... he craves stability in business. And I feel like this is an important one right now because with the pandemic, the last however long now, stability has been difficult for a lot of businesses, and a lot of employees now are saying that they don't want to go back to the office. They don't want to go back to work. So businesses are facing a different type of instability, and employees themselves are trying to decide, do they go for another job or do they open their own business? Do they do their own desire? And this is, stability is just, what else? Stability in business. Dreams. Craves, desires, wants, and needs. Okay, stability in business. Fun experiences for self and family. I don't know what those experiences are, but I know that when you are more successful, when you're bringing in more money, when the business is successful, when there's stability, you can plan for things. You can plan for Disneyland. You can plan for a vacation for the whole family. You can start to plan. Like, again, we're taking into consideration time and communication, the things that you value. If you value spending time with the family, then you will find a way to do that. So he craves fun experiences for the self and family, because ultimately, what do you remember? You remember the experience itself. You remember what you felt during it. So that's important. Um, he craves growth. Growth in business and growth in self. Remember, this is a reader. This is somebody who is working out. This is somebody who is 48. So he's already looking down. Ooh, there's less than half of life technically remaining, right? The amount of time spent on this earth is dwindling. So he is really trying to pull everything together. And he's a little bit of an older father at 39 when he had the kid, and his wife was 30. So, you know, he's a little bit of an older father. He's not able to do, maybe get on the ground and roll around. It's a girl, so they're not wrestling really. Maybe they are. I don't know. What we could actually go into that. You know, what kind of daughter is this 9-year-old daughter? Is this a softball daughter or a ballet daughter? Is it a piano recital daughter, or what would be a good contrast with piano? Maybe she's really into billiards. We could go into that, and really, the more you define some of these things, it isn't really necessary for your marketing, but it's great to get the details from your imagination onto paper, because you start to build a three-dimensional character, a three-dimensional avatar of who this person is, what they're really thinking about, what they're worried about, what they look at through the world, what they experience. And I think this is a really good start for me. And I might go in and add more later as we go through this process. You'll probably be able to see how I add more to this. But I think that this sheet plus that last sheet is a really great place to kind of start and play with. I'm always into, like, play with it. Everything starts in your imagination. Everything starts in your brain. Everything starts with neurons connecting and firing and wiring together based on what you know, what you think, and what you can dream. And when you start there, then you can start expanding outwards from it and finding and locating the stuff in the real world. That's the fun part of this. That's the fun part of branding. That's the fun part of any creative project. And any project is a creative project when you start just exploring what can be, not just what is. Because every time you start with what is, you can't go any further, because life will stop you, because that's the way life works sometimes. You have to expand beyond that. There's a great, I can't remember what the book is called, but there's a great like a visualization teacher who taught that, you know, many people visualize the outcome that they want, and they know to kind of close their eyes and walk through that outcome so that you can essentially taste, smell, feel, hear, see that entire outcome. And this teacher says that's really good, but it wires the neurons together, which is great. But the thing that really cements it in is when you take it one step beyond that and say, okay, well, because of all of those things and that experience, what can happen? Where is life because of that stability, because of that vision? And then taking it even one step further, 2 steps out, what happens is that you imagine, well, what is life like because you have this, because of this entire visualization? So when you take it 2 steps out, it's like manifestation to the extreme, visualization to the extreme. You're really reaching out through creativity and explaining, well, you know, brain, we have to getting this whole life, this car, this house, this everything that I want in this first visualization is important, and it has to happen because we need to reach the next step, and the next step is freedom. The next step is feeling great because all of everything else is taken care of, and then the next step beyond that is conscious growth, is self-fulfillment, is really expanding to millions of people because, you know, I felt really good and was stable because I got to this next step. And that's what really drives visualization. And that made a huge impact on me. If I can find out who the author is, I will share it with you because I think it's really, really dynamic. Okay, so the next exercise is, I'm sweating up a storm here in the house. The next exercise is a story of risks and struggles. And a story of risks and struggles is the hero's journey. The hero's journey is the story of risks and struggles. You living your life are living the hero's journey, and every struggle that you face, every time you say, well, if I succeed, if I take that next step, I will get to here, but if I fail, I'm way down here. That's risks and struggles. That is the hero's journey. Every time you are overcoming, strengthening yourself, you are literally flexing the muscles of your life and breaking the fibers a little bit so that the next day you are stronger and taking the next step. So that's the hero's journey. We want to document each of the pieces that go into it. And we did an exercise on the hero's journey before that was really much more about you and your position or your brand as it was kind of going through the story. And I gave a little example of my life. I think that was in week 2 or 3. And this time I'm asking some very specific questions because we are focusing on the audience, on the character that we just did. And actually, I'm going to go back and do one more thing with that because it's something I like to do at the last step. Because looking at all this, 48-year-old male, married. I'm going to give him a name. Because when we give someone a name, it becomes personal to us. We start to associate qualities with someone with that name who embodies that. And I'm hearing in my head, just kind of imagination creeping in and out there. I'm going with Steven Rogers. So Steve here, 40-year-old, doing this whole thing. Steve is my guy. Steve is the guy I'm talking about. Now that plants Steve deep into my head. That says that Steve starts to take on a personality now. Steve likes all these things. Steve is a dedicated father. Steve likes cooking food for his family as often as possible. Steve values the time, likes being a good leader, reads a lot. Starts to get fleshed out, starts to seem like a real person, right? So we're going into the story of risks and struggles, and there are, on the left-hand side, there is a modified structure for the hero's journey. And this is just a different way of showcasing it, a different way of telling it, and this is a way that sort of jives with the story brand way of presenting, that really jives with the way that we tell a hero story that could be a positive or negative ending, depending on how you want things to turn out, how you want to create the story as you tell it to the next person. But really, I set up this timeline in a way that you can see why each question, where it happens in the story, or it happened in the occurrence. And if this were a movie, this might be Star Wars. Or it might be the movie Aragon or the book Aragon. There's a lot of movies that follow this structure because it is the common structure. And you will see based on the questions what it is I'm trying to go for. And I've got my answers here so that I can just walk you through my thought process with it. So the first question, my main character from the last exercise is, and I wrote it at the top, modern guru, teacher, visionary. Steve. I just wrote it, Steve, at the top. You can see it super light. So the next step down, what happens to my character that disrupts peaceful daily survival, and what are their struggles? So you can see in the timeline that question 2 happens, it's the inciting incidents. So there is something that happens in this person's life that causes them to start looking at what they're doing, changing something, either rebelling or seeking a solution in something. So that might look like, if you needed a tire, maybe your tire blows out, right? It's an initial event that makes you go, what's the next thing? How do I solve this? How do I get out of this cycle if so it doesn't get worse? It's right at the top. So what I wrote is that Steve is looking for business and community growth. So he made less than $500,000 for his entire business. He's got 3 employees. He really wants to see growth because he himself only took home about $43,000 last year. And as a business owner, he's probably paying a couple of his employees better than he's paying himself. So Steve sees the potential in group retreats, right? There's a lot of potential in moving from one-on-one to groups. So he sees that and he wants to do a retreat because he thinks that he can really provide a lot of value to his community through that and create an experience that they will remember and really create a lot of transition and change within them. He needs to get established, or he needs to get established, like he needs to build this next stage. He needs to figure that out. He needs to create the strategy and start moving on it, or face a limit on growth and earning potential. So maybe he's maxed out his calendar, he's maxed out his team's calendars, and there is no real way to grow into the next stage of their business without a transition, without a new offer, without something new. And he sees this retreat, he sees this event, this experience with a group of people at a nice place as a great way to return that value, essentially a conference, right? So he sees that, and then maybe he starts pursuing that a little bit, and then you can see in the hero's journey there's an initial success. So maybe he soft lobs it out to his team, and maybe to a couple of the top people that he's helping, he's coaching, and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. If you when you find a place, let me know, and I'd be willing to go in for a certain amount of money. And he says, okay, well, that seems like a great offer. And then there's a disruption in his life, and that's probably in the context of my guy Steve. I'm laughing now, Steve. In his life, that probably looks like, okay, I am not finding the type of venue that I want. I'm not finding a type of location that can cater to 50 to 100 people that are part of this group that can also host them. I don't want to be in the city. I want to be away from things, but I also want to have technology, and I want to have access to the presentation, and I want to give everybody a really great, memorable time. So that is a huge disruption. How does he continue on this path that he's imagining? How does he continue on this path and face that disruption? Well, he reaches a point of no return. And the point of no return is number 3 for us. So number 3 says, what does my character think and feel that pushes them to react? And I'm sort of just talking through that with you right now. And what must be risked to find a solution? You see, people will not move on to a solution by themselves. The part of our limbic brain and our base neural programming actually forces us to stay in familiar, to stay in what is safe. And anything that is outside of that, we have to push into the unfamiliar. We have to push away from, frankly, laziness. Laziness is a savior of our brain that teaches our system how to behave. And we have to push outside that to get into the unfamiliar, into new stuff. So trying to grow, trying to think about retreats, it's a whole new thing for Steve here. And that point of no return is where he sees, look, I really have to find something. I'm willing to go to the next step. What is the next step for him? Well, that is feeling frustration, anger, and fear. The FAF, or FFA, because frustration is often when we notice things. This is like the typical response when we are looking for something in the world and we have an idea around it. We compare everything in the world with what's in our heads, and normally we feel a bit of frustration because we can't encapsulate everything that's here. It's just not out there. That's reality. So we feel frustration first, and then maybe some anger because we recognize that contrast. That's not what we want. That's not what we want. That's not what we want. And I'm imagining Steve even can't quite let go of that, right? That's just a process. It's sort of almost the healing process from trauma and from loss. Frustration, denial, anger, finally acceptance. And so fear is also the last thing that he would feel, because really, what if this doesn't pull off? What if he's stuck at this level with his business? What if he can't pay his employees? What if he can't find another avenue for growth? There's always another avenue. There's always a new thing. But, sometimes that little voice creeps up, right? That's the truth. That's reality. So, what is he doing? What is the question again? What does my character think and feel? So that's what he's thinking and feeling. What must they need? What must be risked to find a solution? Well, he's got to search for the group. So he's risking his time, right? Time with employees, time with doing things. He's risk on business growth and earnings. So he's going to have to definitely spend some money to make some money. That's always the thing. Like, he will have to pay for the retreat. He will have to pay for all of that, and hope that if he can pre-sell, it limits the risk there. Business is all about limiting your risk while taking forward steps to get the income. And he recognizes, he's had a couple discussions with his financial expert, that his runway is running short. Maybe he has a 4-month runway and he's been trying to build a 6-month runway. If you're not familiar with runway, It's the amount of money you have in the bank that if you don't have a customer, that you can continue to run your business the way it is without radical shifts. And that radical shift might be Steve laying off somebody. That radical shift might be Steve going to, firing everybody, closing the business, and going back to work. So if his runway is running short, that's danger sign. That means cash is running low, and he has to do something quickly. And that's probably a big reason for that fear, right? When you start looking at numbers and you're playing with some of this stuff as a business owner, it can be a little fearful. So that's what he's risking. That's what he's looking forward to. And then in the hero's journey, he meets a guide. And the guide is you. The guide is your brand, your product, your service, whatever it is you give to the other person, because they are going through all of this in their life. They are actually experiencing that fear. They are actually experiencing that anger, that frustration, because it's a good bet whatever problem you solve is continual for them, because they're sticking with what's familiar. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know the solution outside of what they have already done. And it's up to you to share the solution, remind them of the struggles that they've had, ask them, like, well, what's the solution that you want? Provide them with the answer and the path on that solution, and then challenge them into action. Do you actually want to move into that? Or do you want to go back to frustration, anger, and fear? Because if you actually want to move forward in this task, this is what you say as the brand, as the solution, as the guide to their journey. If you actually want to move forward, you have to grow. You have to move beyond the frustration. You have to move beyond what you think in your head, or what you think you know in your head, and start wiring and firing new neuron connections that actually move you towards the solution. That's a powerful thing right there. That little statement, that little speech is the crux of sales today. It is really about, where do you want to be? What have you been experiencing? And how do we move you into the future that you want to experience? Because you have to invest in that future. You have to take the risk and see the return on the other side of it in order to move beyond the familiar. Otherwise, neuroscience will not let you move beyond the familiar. It wants to keep you safe. And there's that risk, man, keeps you limited in fear. Meets a guide. A guide, my brand, your brand, helps my character make a plan and challenges them to act. What steps does my character need to take to reach success? So in this map, let me hold this up a little bit. In this map, I love doing it this way. One side is success, and the other side is failure. And it is super important when you are imagining this stuff to do both sides of the equation. So for Steve, here's the steps that the guide shows him. Like, he gets to the website, he finds somebody, he makes a phone call, and the steps are find and contact property. Great. B, location tour. So he goes out and tours location. He has a deposit place. That's C. And this is what the guide is saying. Look, this is easy. You come out, we show you everything, we talk about it with you, you maybe put a deposit, and then we can go ahead and arrange all of the details. And then we, on our side and on your side, we recommend assigning a spokesperson. That way you can be on stage, you can do other things, and our person can talk with your person and do everything that's necessary, even when you're up on stage or doing your thing. And then show up and do it. That's it. That sounds like a great list, and show up and do it. That seems like a pretty easy list. And my brand, talking to Steve, would say, so what do you want to do? This is what it looks like. Do you want to go back to feeling fear, anger, and frustration? Or do you want to maybe come out and take a look at the property and see if we can match? Because we are magical, we are holistic, we are energetic, and it's right up his alley. So the next step, because between meeting a guide and 5 all seems lost, is a lot of confrontation. It's growth, it's struggle, it's touring the property, it's debating the deposit, it's choosing dates. All of these are tiny struggles and tiny choices, beliefs that are formed because of the choices about the event that actually start to program the energy around the event. The way that the brain functions, the neurons come together to create a synaptic network. That network actually has a harmonic frequency of cells and vibration and energy. This is just based on the work of Bruce Lipton, Dawson Church, and Joe Dispenza. There's an energy to that, and that energy, if you believe it, if you move it positively, he starts making the dates, it starts building momentum and moving forward. So those are all the kind of challenges that might happen in that time. So at some point, in this journey, in trying to make arrangements, make deposits, appoint a spokesperson, at some point in that, Steve is probably going to think, oh my God, is this worth this? Have I pre-sold enough? Is this going to be successful enough? What am I doing? Is this the next stage of my business? Oh my gosh. Because that's the limbic brain. That's the fear factor setting in. That's going, what am I doing? That's the not success mindset. It's the challenge and the worry mindset kind of building in. That is point number 5. All seems lost. That is when everything, maybe a couple people back out and he's just debating the whole thing. So number 5, what I ask is, how does my character's experience need to be and feel before they take final actions? So in that thought process, he's probably going, am I doing the right thing? Is this crazy? Am I just throwing away money? I hope I make it back. What do I have to cut out, or who would I need to fire if this doesn't work? So he needs to feel, honestly, he needs to feel the pressure for growth and or business stagnancy. He needs to feel that to take the next step, to go 100% into this and put the energy behind it that it needs to move forward. He also, from the outside, so this is an internal need and this is an external need. And the thing is that when we're solving things for our audience, for our customers, we need both aspects of that, because an internal need affects the external need and the external need supports the internal need. So the external need is he needs to feel cared for and taken care of to sign up, put the deposit in. So he needs to feel like the property is paying attention, respecting him, listening, communicating. I put here communication and trust. Communication and trust are really big for him, because if he feels like he is getting communication and trust from the property, then he's probably going to feel this internal pressure that he needs to feel and he will feel will be actually a little bit slighter. And he could probably spend a little bit more time working with his salesperson and calling people, or on social media, advertising it, marketing it, doing all sorts of other things. And this pressure internally will probably abate if the communication and trust is there, because he feels taken care of. And if he assigns a person to handle this task, then he can really focus on the top one while the second one is handled by his spokesperson, right? So then we get into the final ordeal, which is like getting everybody together, or the last couple of days. And then there's a climax, which is really, for me in my story here, is everybody showing up at the place, going through the event, and the property being either great or awful based on what? Well, I need a KPI, a key performance indicator. I need something to know, like, whether this was a good choice overall or a bad choice overall. So number... where am I at? 6 says, what does success look and feel like for my character? Well, success, because I'm assigning a sort of KPI to this, I assume that at the end of this event, we will circulate a flyer or just a little sheet saying, what did you think of this? So success looks like a retreat completed where at least 75% of participants give positive reviews. All property responsibilities were better than perfect, and all problems were efficiently managed. So everything with the property, everything with the event, everything with technology and cameras and everything else just are handled perfectly, and the participants, at least 75% of them, think that it was really a positive event. So what about failure? That's number 7. What does failure look like? Well, failure would be his community is angry with him. Maybe less than 25% of the people have positive reviews. If less than 25% have negative reviews, then that's a sure sign something definitely needs to change. This was not successful. Maybe property problems like technology, speakers, microphones, that sort of thing. And worst, if no one takes responsibility, right? How do you feel when you do something and you make a complaint and everybody passes the buck? Well, if everybody passes the buck, you don't feel like you were heard, you don't feel respected, you are certainly not going to trust that property again. So that's definitely what failure would look like in terms of the event for Steve. And see, now because of that, we have this entire journey, an entire background of Steve, where he is just moving forward, doing his things, and we understand some of his challenges, some of the things that he's looking forward to, some of the structures. Then we can actually start to write, heck, a story, right? Based on what we know about him, we could probably put together a novella, at least 50 or 60 pages about his story, just fleshing out details about his life and leading up to the event and having a climax that is the event and either people loving it or hating it. And that is the crux of the hero's journey. That is the story coming together. We have just enough details right now to really imagine that strongly. So the last exercise for this week is the a day in the life of, and this is sort of a playful one. This is one of my favorite ones, honestly. It's very playful. It helps you think through a lot of different things. I'm going to change pens because that Sharpie's wearing out. Helps you think through some things just from a slightly different angle and gives you a new perspective. So, and I based I based the worksheet printout on one of those black covered schedulers, and that's kind of what I've got here. So the way I like to kind of break this stuff up, the way I think about things is, what are my priorities for the day? So Steve, for his priority, said, book retreat property. Maybe he's looked at a few things. Maybe he wants to do a little bit more research. But his priority really is to book the retreat itself. Second priority, outline his presentation. Third priority, research musicians. Maybe he just has this idea of getting musicians in. And of course, there's a space for a couple more. I tend to think that most people only accomplish 3 tasks in a day. I like to assign up to 5 because that gives us something to roll over and keep moving on. But I think 3 is actually a doable number. So for priorities, I choose 3. To-dos, not necessarily priorities, but things to think about to keep life rolling. Pick up dry cleaning. Steve's going to get his dry cleaning. Grocery, milk and peanut butter. Makes sense. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for his daughter. Coffee and bagels for office. So he's going to get into the office. He wants to make sure he grabs coffee and bagels for the office. That's a great idea, right? He's a good boss. He's a good leader. So his schedule looks roughly like this. He'd wake up and eat from 6 to 7, and he gets his kid ready for school or whatever else, breakfast, whatever that looks like. Drive to office. He's probably going to pick up the bagels at that point in time. Check mail and prioritize tasks. There's a couple different methods, one of which I'll share in a couple of weeks, to how to prioritize your day to make sure you're getting the big rocks done first and not the little ones. If you don't get that reference, I'll share a video shortly. Stand-up team meeting at 9 o'clock. So that's just everybody standing up, saying what they're working on for the day, saying where they're focusing, making sure everybody's in alignment. And then from 10 to noon, he's working on his presentation. That is, right here, priority, he's setting it up. Lunch with wife at noon, sure. Research retreat properties from 1 to 3. So he's calling places, he's looking online, he's asking questions, he's talking with people. And I'm just assuming he finds 1 or 2. And so from 4 to 6, he meets with the team, RE retreat planning. So they're talking about it and putting things in perspective. And then from 6, he drives home. 7, he cooks dinner, has dinner with the family. From 8 to 10-ish, he's going to go ahead and read his books. And then somewhere around 9, put child to bed. And 10 o'clock, bed prep. So he didn't get to research musicians. And that's okay, At the end of the day, he can say, he really didn't even book the property, but he did do his presentation, so that's great. Let's say he picked up those things, did that, and did that. So he's moving things off of the list. It feels good to move things off of a list. I recommend at least a little bit of a priority list like this for yourself, because as we've learned with all these cell phones and all these other things, crossing things off a list releases dopamine. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel like you've completed something. So if you're ever really kind of feeling a little anxious, a little depressed, not sure what to do with your life, just create a list with three things on it, and do those 3 things and cross them off, because that hit of dopamine is just enough to make you feel alive. It's just enough to make you feel vibrant and ready to take the next step, and then maybe start another list. Okay, so presentation work, he did some of that, and he met with the team. He didn't book the property, but he did meet with the team. I'm going to go ahead and say he decided something there, because we're making this up. So let's say I accomplished, I love this idea at the end of every day, I accomplished, chose location, made presentation. horrible handwriting, chose location, made presentation. Those are two huge things that Steve was able to accomplish in his workday, meeting with his team, getting everything set and organized. And now we've got kind of a whole picture of Steve, don't we? We've got an idea of what's going on in his life. We have an idea of where his business is. We have an idea of the next steps that he's trying to do for growth, and maybe like what he's doing with his team one-on-one or currently coaching, life coaching, goal coaching, whatever it is that he's doing. And to really do the group thing on a retreat, my brand, my idea here is going to offer him a space. And because this week is not about me or my brand or my idea, all of these exercises are really focused on the character of Steve and their life. And so when you are doing this, just imagine your customer, your needs, whatever's going on in their life, and play with it. Because the last piece of this that I have not shared today, that will be going online after this video, and is your next step, is to actually find somebody like your avatar. Find somebody that encapsulates the archetypes, so maybe visionary for you, and then like intuitive leader, intuitive guru, intuitive coach for me. So I would post on Facebook, I'm looking for these people to ask a few questions about a business idea or a project that I'm working on. And I want you to find at least 10 people to connect with. And I'm going to go and I'm going to post some questions online, and that will be exercise 20. So you will have a list of questions to ask them to gain perspective about their lives, their needs, their wants, to compare against what we've just done and fill in some of the blanks, because what we've done is created an imaginary, creative avatar, ideal client for you, and we're going to take that idea and do a test with reality and see what happens in reality, what happens with real people. Are they experiencing these things that we think they're experiencing? Do they feel the same way? Do they live the same life? Do they worry about the same things? What does success look like to them? What does failure look like to them? And when you get the answers to these things, you can actually use those answers, come back, revise these worksheets with the real answers, and that gives you real alignment, real direction with where we're going with this. So that's the exercises for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please share your work in the group. I love seeing the stuff in there when you do. Yeah, all of these exercises are building on one another. Next week, we're going to take a look into the priorities for your brand, the things that you need to work on to well, from your head, to just improve the next steps, to increase revenue, to increase awareness, and to increase efficiency in what you're doing, so you gain more time being the highest value, because it is limited on this earth. Yeah. So one last time, I hope you're really enjoying all this stuff. If it's not fast enough for you, if you are working on a project that requires focus, that requires speed, that requires getting it off the ground, you need to get all this sort of alignment between your brand, your business, your customers, your goals, your priorities, all of these things fleshed out, ironed out for you. You can apply for my process, this process, the same exact process, one-on-one or one with the group, whatever, however you want to do it, at my website, thinktankcreative.net, thinktankcreative.net. The application is just right there. It's a Calendly form. You just put right in, and it's about a half hour just to see, can I help you? Is this right for you? And please keep enjoying these exercises. Dig in deep. Even if you're not at the space of utilizing some of these results yet, and I know some of that's still vague, it's hard to live with that ambiguity, but you know what? What you're doing right now is building neural networks. You are literally programming your brain in a different way for creativity, imagination, manifestation, and that is a powerful thing. So thank you so much. I enjoy having you as part of my group. I really appreciate you watching these videos, participating, and giving me all the feedback that you have. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.